Hi everyone, my name is Kirk, and this is my Innovation Infusion Plan titled Designing for Inclusion, Systemizing Training for Sustainable Community Impact. This project focuses on how we can expand inclusive community-based education for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities by creating systems that make this work scalable and sustainable. Once upon a time, inclusive education for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities was limited and inconsistent. While some programs existed, they were often localized and difficult to replicate, relying more on individual expertise than on actual structured systems. Every day, adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities continue to face barriers to meaningful participation in education and community life. Research shows that access to postsecondary and community-based learning opportunities remains limited. Even though these experiences are linked to improved independence and quality of life, according to Griegel et al., at the same time, organizations often lack the training and structure needed to implement inclusive programs effectively. And that's according to research from Kumar. One day, through my work with lifelong learning with friends and other community partners, I began to see both the impact of inclusive programs and the challenges of scaling them. Programs were working, but they weren't spreading. Organizations wanted to be inclusive, but they didn't know how to start or to sustain that work. Because of that, I reframed the problem using the Jobs to be Done framework, as described by Christensen et al. Organizations are not just looking for training, they're trying to move from uncertainty to confidence in creating inclusive environments. This means they need clear systems, practical tools, and support that goes beyond theory. Because of this, it became clear that the real gap is not in ideas, but in actual implementation. Many organizations rely on trial and error approaches due to limited training and unclear pathways, which leads to inconsistent outcomes. This reinforces the need for a structured system that supports consistent and scalable implementation. Finally, I developed the STSCI Framework, which stands for Systemizing Training for Sustainable Community Impact. This framework is designed to help organizations implement inclusive practices in a structured and scalable way. It includes 5 key components. 1 is structure, that's clear systems and implementation pathways. 2, we have training, that's the practical, accessible learning resources. 3 is sustainability, that's going to be the long-term adaptability. 4 is community, that's shared learning and collaboration. And 5 is the impact. That's ongoing evaluation and continued improvement. The goal is to reduce uncertainty and provide a clear path forward. This approach is grounded in research showing that inclusive, community-based education can improve communication, social participation, and overall well-being. This comes from research conducted by Lundqvist Pearson and Holmqvist, and also Stancliffe and Hall. When systems are in place, these outcomes become more consistent and more widely accessible. So, why does this work matter? Well, this work matters because inclusion is not just about access, it's about belonging. Many current systems provide short-term or limited opportunities, but they do not support lifelong participation or sustained belonging. That can be found in research conducted by Stancliffe and Hall. By systemizing training and implementation, we can create environments where inclusion is not dependent on individual programs, but can be built into the system itself. To implement this framework, organizations will need to engage with virtual training resources, adaptable curriculum models, and community partnerships. This allows them to build internal capacity rather than relying on outside expertise. However, there are still challenges, including resistance to change, limited resources, and gaps in training. However, innovation here is not about creating something entirely new. It's about making effective practices easier to adopt and sustain across different contexts. In closing, this project reframes innovation as systems design. When we create systems that support inclusion, we move from isolated success stories to sustainable community-wide impact. And ultimately, that's how we create real belonging. Thank you for watching my presentation.